Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest edition of Lowdown Entertainment. I'm your host, Joe Adams, along with my good buddy and my co-host this evening, Gary the Bear.
Well, good afternoon.
We have a very special show tonight. We have a couple guests coming on this evening, and we're going to touch upon something that, number one, we don't like talking about, and number two, we do have to talk about, and that is fire safety. Before we get started, though, and before we get in too deep, number one, our heartfelt condolences to the Jim Pugh family. We lost Jim Pugh, or Pewey, as many of you know him, last week. He was a very good friend of the show, also a very good friend of our own Brian Whitman. They were very good friends. So I would personally like to dedicate this show in Pewey's memory. He was a good dude, loved racing, huge Jeff Strong fan. Fire is one of those things that you can never prepare yourself 100% for. You can only do is like everything you can possible to you, but sometimes freaky things just happen. So yeah, he's just tumbling, and probably probably the first impact is what jarred the fire suppression.
That car just fears right.
It just broke. Like the car just unloaded and hit the wall.
I don't know if you've ever been in Knoxville, but you are called a man. I don't know if everybody can see that on the TV there, building a big head, but it was vicious. It was a hell of a ride. 3 drivers got out and risked their lives to get Carson out of that car.
You will see, here comes Selby. As Barry said, 3 other guys came over, and because it's, not only they're risking their lives, they're risking like their careers at this point too. Because they can get burnt to the point where maybe there's no loss of life, but you could be backed up pretty good.
One of my buddies is here with us, Eric, and he's a fireman, and I showed him this before we went on the air. It's like, the biggest thing there is inhalation. They didn't get fire at all. Yeah. They're breathing all of that, whatever chemical he said.
Was it purple gas?
I don't know.
We're gonna find out.
We got professionals.
We do. We have some great people here that we're going to chat with. We're going to talk about Simpsons songs. Not just Simpsons songs, but
Not just Simpsons songs.
They could be that's why
Whatever you want.
Whatever. But because we do. And each card SFI rating. And we're going to go over what an SFI rating is.
Yes.
And why it's important that race car drivers have them. So, Austin, also known as USAC Flagger, BFF of none other than Nicole.
Right, absolutely.
What is it? Giggles and Wiggles?
Giggles and Wiggles.
Giggles and Wiggles?
She's Giggles and I'm Wiggles.
Yeah. I thought.
They won't go there. She might be watching.
And to Warren's yes, is our friend Ray.
How you doing? I don't have any nicknames.
Don't have any nicknames?
Giggles or Wiggles.
Ray, what is your backstory?
Well, retired out of the fire service, City of Bethlehem. Spent a lot of my time in the fire service. Got involved with ESI equipment, which also has a track safety services team. And pretty much went on there. My forte was auto extrication and learning more and more as I spent time at the tracks. It turned into the fire side or fire suppression operations that take place at these tracks. So had some time. I had the opportunity to work up in New York when they brought Formula E over into using the electric vehicle. So that was a learning experience in itself. I was part of
a whole new ballgame.
I want to touch upon that briefly because we have a ton of stuff to cover. But like Barry just said, Formula E. Now there is Formula E. For those of you who don't know, the Formula One is it's called Formula E. It's a Formula One car with a battery-powered race car.
Yeah.
There is no gasoline, no petrol used whatsoever. It's all battery powered. They switch cars out after a while when the batteries run low. They're constantly being monitored. So and now we get into an electrical fire. That's a whole other ball game in itself. There, how do you know?
Absolutely, it was a training process. They had a team on location to go into operation in the event that one of these went into a runaway or was involved in an accident on the being on fire. They had water buffaloes. What you would do is do copious amounts of water that would be injected into the end of the battery compartment area to try to minimize that temperature. And, you know, they had dry ice type
Wow.
operations up there that they could actually constantly keep those batteries cool during their operation. The cars are set up very well, and they had you know, safety systems on it. There's a red LED and a green LED, so for operation, when you went near the car, as long as that light was in the green mode, you could operate around that car safely.
Gotcha.
Some unique things that I seen up there were they had folks with shepherd hooks, and kind of was wondering why are there folks standing behind me with a shepherd hook? And that was in the event that if something went drastically wrong, you might end up getting an electrical shock of some nature they could pull you away.
Yeah, would the electrical shock they clamp you to the vehicle itself?
I wouldn't say so. It's pretty much going to throw you, but it can do a lot of you know, damage to you, hurt
Right.
you very weakly.
Right.
So you know, again, it was interesting.
Awesome. So you obviously have a lot of experience now. Now your horizons are even broadened even more now with the electrical side of things, which that's going to increase as time goes on. And Warren, we touched upon you obviously being a flagger with Nicole and everything, just joking around, but you have a pretty extensive background as well in this, you know, fire and safety area as well.
Yeah, I, you know, a part of the New Jersey State Police, you know, the Civilian Advisory Board that we have here, that oversees auto racing in the state of New Jersey, that advises the state troopers. There's a group of state troopers that, you know, oversee that. And they have a group of advisors, of experts, like subject matter experts, we use that term. It kind of gives them some guidance, it kind of gives them some, you know, best practices and keeps them informed of the racing industry and the changes that are happening.
Right.
You know, so we have that, that's there. I'm the track services coordinator for all the indoor auto racing series, you know, the indoor auto racing series, you know, that Lenny's Hammonds puts on. You know, I support that program and develop their emergency action plans or incident action plan, you know, following the NFPA 610. I'm at Salinger Speedway, we do the same thing there. Obviously, I travel with USAC when they come east here in the country. I've been it for 14 years, so I could go on, but yeah, I've been, you know, been around a while.
So we have two of what Bear and I would consider some of the most experienced people when it comes to this stuff that we can find. And we definitely appreciate both of you gentlemen being here tonight. I'm going to start with the basics, okay? I'm going to start with driver safety. When a driver gets into a car, obviously many of you, everybody sees this at the racetrack, they wear a suit which goes from their neck all the way down to their feet. And of course if they have a helmet on, and you'll see them don the gloves, and they'll have some sort of racing shoe on. Now, I know the camera's not going to pick this up. This is a pair of racing socks, okay? This has an SFI rating on it. Could you please let us know what an SFI rating is, and how important is it to see this label right here on any race-related apparel that we're going to wear before we get into a race car?
Well, I'll start off with, so for us as an official, when we're inspecting anything, pre-season, right, going to the racetrack, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that the fire suit has an SFI label on it, right? You want to make sure the gloves, the shoes, the socks, everything has an SFI label.
What does SFI stand for, if you don't mind me interrupting you for 1 second?
So it's a foundation that tests all of the driver apparel, right? Right down from the seat belts, the window nets, to everything, to give it a rating, and even does fire extinguishers in regards to that. So that there's a rating that gives it, make sure that it meets the standards that they come up with.
Okay, so it's the Safety Foundation Institute. That's what SFI is.
Okay.
And again, it's, if anyone understands like UL classifications or any type of standard testing that's out there, these are tested for the situations that you're going to be faced.
So
Giving you a flash rating, you know, how much time is it going to buy you? If it meets an intense amount of heat, it's going to protect you for so long.
Right.
It's not going to be forever, but
Right.
it's just to be able to give you a component of protection, you know, in the event that you're involved in a flash fire or an actual fire to buy this time.
Right. Now, this particular, again, this is a pair of socks that we have here as an example. This material is called Nomex, I believe. Is that correct?
It should be based on the Mr. Simpson. So yeah, so this is a pair of Nomex.
Yeah, it's
tube type sock.
Yeah, so
to
mid-calf, and then I've noticed over the years a lot of guys kind of got away from the long under. I call them the long under. Right?
Yeah.
You know, they've gotten away from them, and I'm not even seeing a lot of triple layer suits, and we'll get into we have a single layer suit, we have a double layer suit, and we have a triple layer suit. Each layer, I do know this, because I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I do know this, each layer is a level of protection. There's also a gray area where too much protection can also hurt you as well. We'll touch upon that in a second. But why do you think, if this stuff is available, guys, why are we not wearing it? Why are we not wearing it? Barry brought a good point up pre-show. You know, we'll see at USAC heat on flow or whatever, and they interview everybody after heats and blah, 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 and they're whipping their helmets off. Everybody has head socks. Why are we not?
Is it not mandated?
No, it's that recommended, you know, in regards to that. So when you get to the state of New Jersey, you know, where we're part of the advisory board, you know, you have to wear gloves, socks, underwear, tops and bottoms, one-piece fire suit, you know, 2 layers.
So in New Jersey, you're head to toe, you're covered.
Clearly says what you have to wear in regards to that, because again, it's governed by the state police, right? And we have it's actually a law in the state of New Jersey. It's the Administrative Code 13/62
Wow.
that talks about auto racing, and it literally talks about the speedways. Expectations to provide track services, like what's done, you know, with our partnership ESI here, you know, when they teach the classes, when they go to the race, you know, with their units and things like that, right down to, you know, like how many, you know, where the flagman has to be, how many traffic lights, how far the catch fence is from the fans. I mean,
wow, yeah.
they really get into that. But
everything's
for fire
tight.
safety,
Yeah.
it explains that you have to wear those things. Now, reality is, and I'll look at the camera when I say this, and I'm sure there are a few drivers that are out there. I get it's hot, and I get that it's uncomfortable, especially with the weather we're seeing today. But the equipment that's available for you to wear, it'll buy you some time, because the recent SFI study will tell you that you only have about maybe 15, 18 seconds at the most before you start getting a second-degree burn. Right, which is, and there's 3 levels of burns, right? There's first degree, which is like your bad sunburn, second degree, which is painful, the blisters, third degree, where your skin's charred. 18 seconds is not a lot of time. And then, you know, your racetracks, right, if you have 1 response vehicle, or if you're lucky you have 2, maybe some quartermen around a racetrack, they can get you equipped. But the more that you as a driver can wear to protect yourself, it helps us as the track services be able to get to you and minimize the potential injury that you're going to have, right? That's why when we do the Dirt National deal in the indoor series, we look at everything, you know, and that's what I do. I look at all of your stuff to make sure that you have what's there. And I'm not the one at a race car, you are. And while we have some professionals that come support us at the racing surface, you know, and are there quickly if something happens, but the more that you can protect yourself, so at the end of the day you come home with 10 fingers and 10 toes, the better that you're going to be. And $35, a good pair of gloves is going to cost you about $100, you know.
Shoes are a couple $100,
right.
I think.
A Nomex hood's probably going to run you about $50, a good hood, you know, at least your eye sockets open. So like, these are things that are available to protect you. And we have to do that, because the speeds are getting faster, the wrecks are getting bad. I mean, we saw the video earlier, right on the big screen here behind us. And, you know, the professionals are getting there as fast as they can, but still, you know, these things are happening.
Well, one thing that pops in my head too as you're telling the story, you're saying, you know, guys, the stuff is available for you to put on as a race car driver. So why not use it, is basically what you're saying. But I keep thinking to myself, it's kind of selfish of them not to put the stuff on. I'm going to tell you why. Because if they get into trouble, guys like you, they've got to fish them out of the predicament that they're in. Now, they're putting you guys at risk because they didn't want to spend $35 before it's, like you said, it's too hot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just you as the driver that you got to think about. You got to think about the safety crew that you're putting into jeopardy as well when you're sitting there cooking like shrimp on the barbie. So it's just another thing to think about. Go ahead, Barry. Sorry about that.
Safety is always the forefront of my mind. My son started racing in 1999. He was 5 years old, and right there's his first 2 helmets. And when people said to me, "Why do you put a Simpson helmet on your kid's head?" first of all, I wanted to punch people.
Yeah.
And I said, what is your son's head worth?
Yeah.
You know, my son had the fireproof underwear, the socks, the hood.
Mhm.
You know, he looked like a freaking zombie going trick or treating, but he wasn't
Yeah.
going to burn up.
That's right.
I understand he had a 3 horsepower quarter midget.
Doesn't matter.
I don't give a crap.
It's still a combustible engine, and if there's a combustible engine, there's a combustible liquid there
I've seen him start a fire,
that can start a fire.
and it's right next to him.
Yeah.
You know, and as you get older and bigger, and things go faster, and that guy's carrying 30 gallons of fuel probably. So
Yeah.
Crown car like right there, 75 gallons.
That's a
of fuel.
lot of fuel.
55 gallon drums of burn barrel, guys.
Yeah.
That holds more than that.
That's right.
That's a hell of
It's
a lot of fuel.
lot of fuel.
But anyway, you said what's something that stands out in my head is 18 seconds. Those guys were on point at Knoxville. They were there in probably 15.
Yeah.
Quicker than that.
Quicker than that,
Quicker
maybe.
that.
By the time you're done flipping, usually it's more than 18 seconds, you know, and you're on fire at that point. There's times where rescue crews are just not even in their trucks, whatever. They get 30, 40 seconds to get there sometimes.
And that could make a.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Because I've seen a lot of bad stuff. I've been around with a lot of
Same here.
races. I've seen people get hurt, killed, and I've seen a lot of people, you know, walk away from a lot of scary shit because they believed in safety.
You bring up another point. I mean, we're talking about safety equipment, but and also with the drivers. But is there a bigger picture with the track?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to allow these drivers to come out, and maybe you gotta, you know, tell them, look, any piece of safety equipment that's available, where
Put it on.
monitor, it, put it
Yeah.
on. You know, because it makes the track look better. I mean, these incidents that take place, if they can be subdued, handled quickly, and there's minimal, no injury.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
earlier this season, one thing that's on this whole discussion, and I know Alex Green's wife is very passionate about it, he wanted to be a part of this conversation as well. There's a track in Tennessee that ran a division, which I don't know what it was, but it was a very entry-level division, and they mandated gloves, racing gloves, and people were freaking
They lost their
out.
minds over that.
They were going nuts because
How dare you?
they didn't want to spend money on gloves.
Come on.
I can't grip the wheel. I
Come on.
can't feel this. Are you kidding me? Then you should leave that
Yeah.
SHIT box in your garage.
Yep. Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
my feelings on that.
A couple things here. While we're talking, we're still kind of in the whole attire right now. Most reputable suit manufacturers, you know, they're going to get a custom suit, you know, Bob's Plumbing and, you know, Jim's Gardening or whatever, and the road over in front. The stitching on those is a Nomex stitching as well. How crazy is it if you bought a suit off the rack, okay? You know, it's got a nice SFI rating, it's a good suit, but your friend's aunt's cousin's sister has a sewing machine, and she's got a Cricut or whatever, and she can put your name on the fire suit and maybe a logo or something. Is that recommended to, or isn't it that big of a deal to have a non-Nomex thread on a suit versus a Nomex thread?
I know I have my opinion. I'll tell us you first, and then I'll chime in.
I would say it meets a standard, so when you get it, you should follow that standard, you know, that was tested. So if it requires Nomex thread, then, you know, anything that can compromise that suit, you know, I would go with.
Yeah.
You know, having your relation, put an iron on it, and you place it.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, you know, again, these products are tested to a certain threshold of heat,
Mhm.
and once they're, you know, once they've met that heat or come in contact with that heat source, you know, they're done. You know,
Yeah.
And that's another thing, our folks monitoring. Maybe I do have my track suit, and maybe I've had it for 15 years because it's my favorite suit. It's my lucky suit. I own my
Yeah.
yard, but has it degraded to the point that it's no longer safe for you to wear it? So
Yeah.
I'm monitoring that also.
It's a good idea.
Absolutely. No, there's, and part of the challenge too is that 15-year-old suit that you like so much, it's got holes in it that you can put your fist through.
Yeah.
And
Grease stains.
and right, it's got grease stains or wheel stains, things like that. And we've seen, you know, and you mentioned Nicole, so like Nicole and I, what we do is we look at all the equipment. And And if anybody has a question with a suit, because there's a lot of us doing it, they'll bring it over to me, and I'll look at it, and I'll be like, I put my hand through the hole here.
Yeah.
I'm like, buddy, you can't wear this. Well, that's my lucky suit, like you just said. And I'm like, but there's a hole the size of Montana here. And they just, and I think that it's not, they don't do it intentionally.
They're not malicious. Yeah.
They just don't know. They're not educated.
They don't know.
That's what I hope we can do today, is kind of give some
Absolutely.
education and give some background, right? So that the drivers, their drivers' wives, the families are understand why we do what we do. It's not because we're trying to make them spend money to just, take them out of a situation like that. We just want to make sure at the end of the day, if something bad happens, because we've seen it this year, that everybody goes home at the end of the day.
That's the key.
That's all we're worried about.
Also, the manufacturer specifications will be with the suit, but do you guys have any side recommendations for keeping a racing suit clean? Because you don't just toss them in the washing machine and throw them in the dryer and like you do with your t-shirts and jeans.
No, I don't know the company off the top of my head, and I'll throw a shout out. I don't know if Nancy Riggleman is watching, but Nancy just posted something because both her and her husband Scott race at Wall Stadium in the factory stock division. She just posted something because people were asking, like, what's the best detergent to use, and there is a company that makes a detergent, but I can't for life me remember the name. And Nancy, if you're watching, if you want to throw that in the chat, I'd
If you know
appreciate
that,
that.
yeah,
But there is an actual solution, or companies, and you have to find the right dry cleaners too. If you're going to do it that way,
Correct.
that can dry clean the Nomex suit. You can't just go to any dry cleaner. You have to find the one that can handle it.
Yeah, so you gotta do your homework on this stuff, because you're not doing yourself any diligence by taking it to a dry cleaner or just tossing it in your washing machine at home, like I said, with your t-shirts and jeans, because there's a certain, the material has to keep its integrity in order to work.
Correct.
And if the integrity is compromised, you, on the other hand, unfortunately will be compromised as well, and you won't have your 18 seconds may go down to 5 or 10 seconds, and that's a total.
Yeah.
Marie Beasley says never put in the dryer. And just in chat here, this is all safety, fire, and ambulance personnel are to be commended for what they do for our sport. Deuce Race fan, you're exactly right. We appreciate that. You know what? Let's give the personnel. I know from personal experience, I live right down by Granby Speedway, so I grew up at Granby Speedway since I was 5 years old. And the track is a customer of mine, so I've been around a lot. Granby goes above and beyond with their safety and their ambulance personnel. They use an ambulance service, Valley Ambulance Service, which is rated very, very well here. They'll even bring in, Granby's been running along with Enduros over the years. Several years ago, they brought in an Enduro car, and they did some safety stuff, like learn how to chop it up, and just, it's kind of like the old saying, you win races in the shop before you get to the racetrack. They're winning this kind of stuff on a Sunday afternoon when nobody's around, and nobody's thinking about the track, and they're cutting up cars, and they're figuring out ways, how can we help somebody get out of a car in a situation because somebody's upside down, there's a fuel leak or whatever. So these guys are constantly working. So I always commended that particular speedway for what they've done. And I know many others do it.
Absolutely, no. Well, one of the 6-7 years ago now, I was fortunate to get Stevie Buckwater to be a driver of ours, and we did a demonstration at Motorsports.
Oh,
I
that's
got a
awesome.
chassis. Davey Salmons gave me one of his old seats. We got some belts donated, and we put a chassis out in front of Motorsports, and we went through step by step and explained what we were doing to those that were in attendance, and we literally cut Stevie out of the car, and we utilized their speed board, right, to get inside, because it was a containment seat, right. I went through all of those process, and at the end of that, that's what Stevie said. He's like, well, I have a lot more respect for you guys now. This is more than just like you show up, get the guy out. No, there's a process, and we went through that. And we used our indoor team, that we have for the indoor auto racing series, which again is most of all the guys and gals from Wall Stadium, and we went through that just because we wanted to do a show and tell. For that. And you have to prepare, you have to plan, you gotta have a plan, you gotta practice, and you gotta be prepared. Because bad things are gonna happen at the racetrack. So it's important that you have all three of those components. And I know, Valley has done practices. I know our friends over at ASI actually have a track services training program.
That's a specified certification program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's actually a program
Wow.
that's available.
And where's this located at?
ESI equipment has a track safety services team. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
and we don't provide track services, but we also provide training. It's probably larger than what I'm aware of. I'm just a small component of that. But
Yeah.
That's here, Mr. Keel.
Yes. That is awesome. This is so good to hear.
You know, I wanted to touch upon the training week there. Years ago, when we ran the legend cars, we ran the class car and Central PA Legends, we were at a different track every week, sometimes 2 or 3 tracks a night, or a weekend. There was times we would get to the track, and as a touring group, we would gather the safety guys and say, listen, here's our shut off, here's our fuel, here's this.
Great.
Because
Yeah.
they had never seen us before. They had never
Yeah.
seen the legend cars were new to this area.
Yeah.
They had no clue. And we didn't want to get upside down or get on fire and have somebody show up on scene and not have a clue.
You bring up a good point. Are all fuel shutoff valves located in the same spot on all modifieds, sprint cars, midgets?
Modifieds are usually in the same spot. Sprint cars, it's sometimes it's at the steering wheel because we don't know where the fuel pump is. And
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's there.
That's right.
600 modifieds, 600 micros, excuse me, because we're in the their chairs. It's over on the left-hand side. TQs are there as well. So, when we inspect them for the indoor racing series, we always have a roll of orange tape. For us, orange tape,
Yeah.
and we write fuel, give the driver a Sharpie,
Yeah.
and we ask them to, if they don't already have it marked, to mark it.
Clearly marked.
Because again, it is important that all you just shut it off, right? So, and in addition to that, right, since everything is, you were saying earlier about electric cars, with the electric fuel pumps, you gotta shut the master power off, right, to be able to disable
Yeah.
the fuel pump, because if the power's still on, that's still going. Right?
Yeah.
So you gotta make sure your switches are off too, and then most race cars, all the switches go to the bottom. But how many times have you seen somebody that instead of
Put them up.
right, to
Yep.
put them up or put them sideways,
Yeah.
right, in regards to that, so that you gotta look at the cars. and
Maybe
understand that.
consistency in some of this safety planning needs to be addressed. Like with something as simple as the switches. All switches must go down to be shut off. Something very simple like that could save something.
And
I
it's
know
not
all the
like
national
it's not like you're getting into that scenario under controlled circumstances either. You're going in for a reason. Something's on fire, he's upside down. The
Exactly.
motor's screaming, people are carrying on, cars are crashing.
Exactly.
So yeah, a little consistency would be helpful for track.
So I know our national series, right, so obviously everything on the USAC side, they keep them consistent in regards to that. So I think your national series stuff, World Racing Group, All Stars, everybody has it consistent for that.
Okay.
It's the mom and pop divisions, I'll say, like the road runners, the 4-cylinders, the blunder cars, whatever you want to
yes.
call it, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's up to the tracks to have it in their rule book
Yeah.
where
It's gotta-
they should.
It's got to be here. It's got to be marked.
And
Right.
mandate
Right, exactly.
and enforcement.
And that's the key word there, that we got to enforce it.
I have just to go back to to touch upon the racing suits again. I have 2 questions, and then we'll move on and talk about the fire itself. 2-part question for you, gentlemen. Number 1, as I said to you at the beginning of the show, I actually have done a little bit of fire safety stuff at Tmeztv, so I've done a little bit nowhere near what you guys do, but 3-layer suits are available, but they're not always the best for people that sweat profusely. So I've been told. What does a person do? And the reason why is sometimes there is a fire if you sweat profusely. The 3-layer suit is so heavy and so hot, you sweat even more, and heat literally, I'm going to be blunt about this, literally boils on your skin. Burns your skin. It's not the fire that's burning you, it's your own sweat. What does someone do if they sweat a lot? Do you just go with a 2-layer and some underwear hope for the best, or is there something that they can do? Is there any recommendations for them?
The only thing I can say is if you're running a 3-layer suit, because most drivers that want to run a 3-layer suit are doing so that they don't have to wear the underwear.
Gotcha.
If you run a 2-layer suit and run the underwear on top of that's equal to 3 layers.
Yeah.
Right, of protection.
Okay.
So that's the give and take.
Okay, yeah.
You know, for the person that's sweating profusely, you know, now I'll put my medic out.
Yeah, yeah.
If you hydrate yourself prior to coming into that, right? And Leslie, a lot maybe watching this as well, and she's in the medical profession. The more that you can hydrate yourself and pre-hydrate, preload, you know, your fluids in there, that while you're still going to sweat, you're still going to have some reserve in regards to that. So maybe you won't sweat as much. The more that you can do that, right? And then little tricks, you know, like you can put one of the cooling towels around your neck in between the events, right?
Yeah.
Get out of the open up the suit, get out of the area, and try to cool yourself off. You can't really do anything about the sweat that's already there, but the more that you can rehydrate yourself, right, to help with that, will give you some extra.
Yeah, because the reason I say this, I have seen drivers get out of the car after 50 laps, and it looks like they're sitting here just like you, like, hey, how you doing? It's a great race, you know, just won, no big deal.
Yeah.
And I've seen guys get out of a 20-lap race, and they look like a drowned rat, and they look beat up, you know, and that some of it could be the car was not working very well at all, and it literally kicked the crap out of them. But you know, it's a real thing, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. It doesn't affect everyone, but at the same time, if we can help one person that's listening, that's why we're throwing that. The second part of the whole uniform thing, and again, we'll move on from this, because there are people out there like Bear brought up before about the whole glove thing down in Tennessee. What do you say to the guy? It's kind of like a DUI. I'm going to go out drinking, and I'm going to drive home because it doesn't happen to me. That happens to other people. This stuff here, doesn't happen to me.
I'll tell you why I brought those socks in. I was at a racetrack a couple of weeks ago, and I watched somebody put their least holiest pair of socks on underneath the race shoes. That person's going to get those socks.
This is a gift.
Yes, it is. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Jay Mauser, who is the owner of MedStar, which travels with the High Limit series now. Right? So Jay's team travel with High Limit. They provide all the track services with Hudson. They travel All Stars, stuff like that. They're supported by Tony Stewart. So Jay earlier this year made a post that if you can't afford gloves, send me a direct message and I'll send you a pair of our gloves. It's going to have the MedStar logo on it.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a pair of gloves.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he understands the importance of it. And Jay's very passionate about this, just like we all here.
Right.
Because, you know, he travels with the series and he's seen bad things.
MedStar team and Lawrenceburg safety team.
Absolutely.
You know, those guys to me
That is no joke.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway safety team. You know, I know we touched on that a little bit on the phone. Ray's part of that, you know, and man, those guys are heroes to me. I'm all about safety.
Yeah.
I grew up with Dunstan.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He
Right.
would get a new fire suit out of the box and get a torch out and torch it.
Yeah.
He's like, I am not going to do the test on here. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna send it back.
Yeah.
Honest to God. I watched that as a kid and I went, that was $1,200. Are you nuts? I got there.
I need to make sure it works.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lawrenceburg guys, you know, guys I'm drawing a blank. You have so many friends on social media. Some of their guys I'm actually friends with because we talked about different scenarios and different things. I think they're even sponsored by McDonald's.
Yes, they are.
Their
Is
trucks
that
are
right?
Yeah. And they run the Enforcer system. They have it right on front of them. I don't know if it's a Chevy, Dodge, or a Ford.
Yeah, in front of the rig.
They're right
They
in front of their
took
truck.
me and Rich right through their whole system at the PC.
They have it right on the front of the truck, so that they can wrap deploy it, and in the back they have the propane. They got 100, 150, 125 pound skid on the back of the slide unit on the back of the pickup. They pull that out if they get into that situation we were talking about earlier, or they can deploy that as well. But they have a bunch of hand extinguishers. They have a UTV that they take around with them.
Awesome.
And they're a complete, you know, service. And they do. They service a variety of racetracks. I know they're getting ready to do Indiana Sprint Week coming up.
Yep.
They're going to be going a bunch of different places. And I know that, you know, all my friends that are on the official side of USAC really appreciate when they're there because it's one less worry. You know, like Matt McCarty is our track services coordinator for USAC. And it's just one less thing Matt has to worry about because he knows that these guys understand, you know, what needs to be done when something happens.
Right. Moving forward now, let's talk about fire. I think there's a couple of different types of fires that we have at local racetracks. One is an alcohol fire. One will be a racing fuel fire. Another could be an oil fire right from the engine department. Do you tackle those three fires differently? Do you have a different mindset for each different one, or is everything kind of handled the same as you approach the bid?
So you can handle them all pretty much the same when you start dealing with your oils and your fuels. It's going to be the suppressing agent that you're going to use to subdue the fire, whether it be an alcohol fire. You'll see, I know back in the days with Indy, you know, there's water that's in there, 55 gallon drums that are nearby that you can try to dilute alcohol, but it's actually a 4-to-1. So you need 4 parts of water to 1 part alcohol in order to start.
That's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water to start that dilution, so you're going to still have fire. You know, to that particularly, when you start looking at your hydrocarbon fires or your fuel fires, racing fuel fires, you know, purple K seems to be.
What is purple K? That's the
just gonna
second
say, I keep
time.
hearing
Yeah,
it's
purple K. What is a purple K?
It's put me on the spot here. It's bicardia sodium.
Yep.
So
That's what I thought.
Gonna guess
that's a big word.
Right.
It's like monoammonium sulfate. You know, when you start looking at ABCs.
Why is Dr. Google up on a computer to say?
It's bicarbonate sulfate. I'm correct on that there. It's a stable chemical agent. If you look at your ABC, or your typical dry chemical extinguishers, their interaction with water isn't the greatest. So if you're deploying, you know, a water mixture with those on a particular type of fire, you have breakdown in both products. Where purple K is more stable. It's very quick in extinguishing. It messes with the chemical reaction that's going on with the fire. So you get those quick knockdowns, and PK has a little bit of the ability to take away some of the heat of the fire. So maybe you can minimize having those vapors that are finding a heated source in there for that continuous ignition source. Where you'll see these fires that looks like they got them, and bam, they light back up.
Yeah, they and I always contributed that to, like, let's take a sprint car for example. Sprint cars, we've all been around racing, and sometimes after a lap, rear brake order's glowing cherry red, and it's sitting right below
half an inch from the fuel
from the fuel tank, you know. And then there's an upside down situation. The fuel's dripping down, this cherry red glowing hot thing. So you think, okay, it flares up, boom, they hit it, it gets knocked down. I always attribute it to it's more fuel is just leaking on there, hitting that red hot cherry rotor again and blowing it up. Are you telling me that's not always the case? It's like these fires will just kind of come to life. They kind of rear their own ugly head all by themselves.
It's the vapors that are burning on from the fuel. So the warmer you get that fuel, the more it can vaporize. So, you know, it's in a hot, you know, it's in a tank, you know, it's in that car, that motor, it's running on tracks, it's heated, so it's vaporizing. And once that starts pulling out, those vapors escape. So that's when you see those quick bursts of a flash fire. Because you think when you look at a car, why do I get a ball of fire up by the front? With the fuel, did the fuel actually run all the way up there? No, it's just the vapor.
It's just the vapor.
So it creates a unique, what they call dimensional fire. Where if I have a pooled fire, I can extinguish. But when you start getting dimensional fires, moving fuel, you know, once it starts moving, now you have fuel that's moving, vapor release. Now your chances of
it's a whole different set of circumstances here now.
And if you flip the car, and now you have it upside down, now you have it running down from the top, pooling on the bottom, and moving across the track.
That's kind of what happened with Macedo there, because like when he came to a stop and the thing just erupted, and you know, now the fuel's just kind of dispersing everywhere underneath the car as everybody's trying to.
We're about to go. Got some fire here.
And we even have an
About
old wing
something like
panel
that.
here we're going to use at some point in time. Now, Warren's going to demonstrate. Now, Warren, what do we have right now?
So I got the fire aid. We're gonna lead off with the fire aid.
And this is the product that anybody can buy in any of their local hardware stores or.
Well, that's we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But as you approach the fire, so now where the fire is, you want to keep it away from the driver. So if the driver's on that side, I don't want to push it towards him.
Correct.
So I want to come from this angle,
Okay.
and I want to push the fire away from the driver.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Made pretty quick work out of that.
Yeah.
You know,
And there was a fair amount of gasoline in there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, but I can see what you're saying there as far as like if you pushed it away, you can see that just from you spraying that actually blows the flames out.
Yep. So again, the key is you want to push it away from the driver,
Yes.
right? So that's why, again, the driver's here, we're pushing it away from that aspect. If I had fought that this way, you saw what it was doing, it would have pushed it towards,
Right,
it would have pushed
right
it towards the
your
driver,
Yeah.
and we don't want to do that.
Right. We have ignition. Now we have a situation here where the wing panel, there's actually a fire underneath the wing panel, correct?
Correct. Yep. So we're gonna let it go for a second. And this is the purple K extinguisher.
This is the purple K.
Coming in with purple K.
Can you stop us? Like, oh, you got it. There you go.
And that thing just smothered that
It's just
in
like nothing.
2 seconds.
That is awesome. Now the purple K is what it actually takes the oxygen out of the air.
Yes.
And as you can tell, Barry and I are having a little bit of a
Look,
difficult time.
And we have a glowing rotor, so we may reignite this. And look,
And it
it
does.
flared back up.
So then she's gonna come back up. So then I have the fire aid that I'm gonna come back in now.
It,
just knocks it right down.
good Lord.
That was perfect. It is awesome.
And as you can tell, Warren's not panicking. He's not
No.
running around like a maniac.
No, everything's under control.
He knows what tools he needs, and he put that fire right out.
You know what, Barry? That's a pretty good thought that you had there, because one of the keys to success for this deal is you've got to remain calm at all times.
Correct.
Like I've been to tracks where they show up on scene, and man, it's like a Three Stooges episode. And not throwing anybody or any track under the bus, but they're just not trained,
Correct.
Right. And if you notice,
and it makes it worse.
what we did here, like Ray talked about earlier, right? Short bursts, angled at the base of the fire, and we didn't have that large cloud of extinguisher, agent, right?
Yep.
Just short bursts and put the fire right out.
Right, the driver's not
Right.
choking out
Right,
inside
absolutely.
the cockpit.
I mean, I gotta refill it because once the spraying done, but you get a lot of tracks that'll do this.
Just douse it.
Right.
And that's, you just,
And that,
now
And now-
imagine
all
if there was
that
a
is-
driver in
Now
in
15 men are gagging.
there. Yeah.
right. And if you go in with the short bursts like we did, you don't have, that mess. But so many, and that's just for one extinguisher. Imagine if you had three or four
Right.
guys coming
Several
in
guys
doing the
rolling
same
in.
thing. That's where you get that area where,
And look at it, it doesn't even dissipate, it just lingers.
right. And that's where you get 3 or 4 guys putting their extinguishers in there, and it's so hard for a driver to breathe.
Awesome.
Great stuff, guys.
Yep. But that's the agents that are out there. Again, that's Purple K. We have the fire aid, which we used first. We followed it up with, again, it's going to reignite because of the brake rotor. You hit it with your other wetting agent, cold fire or fire aid, again, whatever, and boom, it knocks it right out.
Excellent
Outstanding. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is our passion. Or we wouldn't, right? I mean, Ray, I'll tell you, this is our passion. His passion as a career firefighter for so long, right? And now he's carried it over into the racing side. My passion, from racing, being in emergency services as well to where we are today, because we know bad things can happen, but when you have the right stuff, and you have the right gear, you're protected.
And you
Yep.
have
do
the
it.
right training.
That's right. Yeah, it's like almost like having, they gotta have all the rights, all the R's. Right training, right gear,
Right equipment.
right equipment. and you can be successful.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys coming out and showing us this, and our fans. And I'm sure there's people out there that are gonna really get a lot out of this, because it's huge and nobody's covering it, and I think it's very important. And hopefully there's some tracks that are watching that can take something away as well.
Yep.
Because there's training available. If I got nothing else out of there's training available
absolutely.
for these racetracks.
You know, so you have, you know, like it says, ESI has a program where they, you know, where they offer a certification, SFI certification, right?
Correct.
That the track services personnel, you know, can have at the end of the day. There are different modules,
Correct.
you know, in that training, and it's so important to have, because, you know, we're looking to do this, you know, off season up at Selinsgrove, right, for our track services up there as well. I know they've done something up at Port Royal as well, you know, and it's out there, it's there, because ESI has the passion as a company to do the right thing as well. You know, John and those guys in the home office, you know, they want to do it the right way because they believe in it as well.
That is so cool. What do you guys recommend to tracks and race teams as a bare minimum? Like, you know, we're heading to the track. This is our first year racing. Safety wise, obviously we went over the suits and the helmets and the gloves and the shoes and everything like that. But as far as the fire safety for our own protection in our trailer, what's the bare minimum we should have?
I think, you know, to have, you know, a can or two of this around.
That
right?
stuff is amazing.
Cold fire,
cold fire stuff is
or
amazing.
fire aid, right?
Yeah.
Have a couple cans of these around, and then in turn have a 10-pound or a 6-pound purple K extinguisher.
Now this particular extinguisher that we're looking at right here, how big is that one right there?
This is a 6-pound extinguisher.
This is a 6-pound.
Yeah, this is a one and doneer that I had.
Okay.
And
that's
yeah,
the
it's a
one that you
6-pound
used that put that
yes.
fire
And there's
out
still
right there.
there's still more agent in here. I haven't, although it shows that it's discharged because I cracked it.
Yeah.
But I can still spray it for probably another 10 seconds, 12
Yeah.
seconds or so.
And if for those of you who've never popped the fire extinguisher before, there's a pin.
There's a pin. Yep.
There's a safety pin in there.
I pulled the pin. There's a pin here. We'll show you. We'll show you the 20-pounder back here.
And this big boy here is a 20-pound.
20-pound extinguisher.
This is there's your pin.
So there's the pin here.
There's your pin. You pull the pin.
Yep.
Once the pin is pulled.
Yeah, I got extra things at home.
The pin is pulled. It is then just the point of just aiming and then squeezing right back there to discharge the agent that happens to be loaded into that particular fire extinguisher.
Yep.
So it's very easy. Now, is a 20-pound extinguisher overkill for somebody to have like in their trailer?
Probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're running the 53-footer,
Yeah.
right, one of the like a big 53-footer,
Yeah.
that probably would give you some solid protection, right?
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
you're probably running potentially, if you're a traveling series, if you're traveling one of the national series and you
Right.
got a 53-footer,
Yeah.
you got a spare car up top, you
Right.
got a bunch of tires,
Yep.
you may even have a drum of fuel with you.
True.
So a 20-pounder would probably be best for that.
Excellent.
But for our teams here,
Excellent.
our teams here, I think, you can go with something a little smaller, right? If you're talking like a
perfect
regular 28-footer, be a little better in regards to that.
Yeah.
And those ones in your pocket
Comes
there.
down to what's your investment worth?
That's right.
Right, 100%.
Good point.
Where do
Where's
you
the
where do you
refund worth to
purchase
you?
those at?
So you can go to fireaid.com, right? There's I believe it's .com. So you can go to search FireAid, do a Google search. You can get them, buy them there. You can also go to Amazon, right? It's I know you can get these products on Amazon as well. Speedway Motorsports, I think it's in Indiana. They sell cold fire equipment.
Okay.
They also sell the fire suppression systems for the race cars. So I mean, there's a couple of different places that you can go.
If you Google it,
yeah.
Granger's
No,
is another one.
Granger, absolutely,
Granger,
100%.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a shelf life for these extinguishers? So like I get a brand new extinguisher here today. Is it good for the next 20 years or?
No, you should get them inspected on a regular basis to make sure that
That once a
they're
year?
fine.
Annually?
I would do them annually.
Okay.
Right, in regards to that, especially if you're going to have them in your investment, like we talked about,
Yeah,
like Ray talked about.
Yeah, because
have it done every year. But there are some things from the manufacturer as well. So you have your labels that are here. You have some other stuff that's on here as well for the manufacturer that talks about it as well.
There clearly is a gauge right there that
Yep.
lets you know that when it is good or when you did or did not discharge it.
Right,
know,
so you can see that that was in the green,
Yes,
and here we've discharged this one, and you can see it's in the red.
exactly.
Yep.
Yes.
And then,
and
and
even
as
for
you
your
can see the,
your self-inspection on the units is, as you're walking up to the unit, picking it up, is there weight in it?
Yeah.
Check your gauges. Is it
Yep.
fully charged?
Yeah.
and then
Your
you'll
hose.
see,
Is your hose secured
right,
to the unit?
is it
there-
dry rotted?
Yeah. Is there anything blocking the nozzle area?
Right, is there any little critters and spiders?
Is your
and-
discharge
sure,
handle on the
spiders.
back bent?
Right.
You know, things that you can
Absolutely.
quick go over. Is it dented somewhere? You know, that there's a
There could have been
potential
a problem.
issue.
Yeah.
And even just turning it upside down, giving it a couple taps or something, just so you can move that powder that doesn't wind up caked for a period of time.
And you'll see
sitting in
firefighters at the racetracks will take their extinguisher and shake it for
Yeah.
that reason.
Yeah. So, you know, like say I have a fire extinguisher and I've had it for 5 years, you know, or 2 years, let's just say, and I notice it's like, it doesn't say like ready to go anymore. It's kind of like the needle's down a little bit. Is it no good? Do we discard
if
it?
it's your home type extinguisher you're talking about, like you see, like, you know, the little 2.5 pounder and that, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Because most of those are one and done.
Right.
Right. It's the professional made ones like this
Like
that you can
this.
go get
They
recharged.
can be recharged?
Right.
Okay.
But like the little kitty fire extinguisher, you see it, you know,
Those are
things
just-
like that.
those
they're
are kind
one
of
and done.
toss-
Yep,
toss
first
away,
alert,
throws
those
away.
types of
Okay.
things. They're normally a one and done job.
Now, if I could ask both of you gentlemen this very same question, we talked about what we need as a racer, as a bare minimum, to get through. What do you feel tracks need to do minimal to get through, to have a successful, problem-free night when it comes to a fire issue?
Yep. So in New Jersey, there again we talked about that law, right? You have to have 360 pounds of chemical that can be moved to the fire. Right, that's a lot, right?
It is.
And you also have to have 75 gallons of water that's mixed with AFFF foam, or some sort of a foaming agent,
Right.
right? And that's as that came from the Department of Community Affairs, that oversees Bureau of Fire Safety, gave us that in regards to that. So again, it talks about what we just said. You have the powder to knock down the fire. You have the water that can come in to, you know, mixed with foam that can change, you know, the fuel, you know, cool things off and
Right.
provide you that barrier protection, you know, to protect the driver.
That is so cool.
Yep.
I haven't been able to keep up with chat at all, Barry. I don't know if you have.
Nope, you have my phone.
But yeah, but that's that's in New Jersey. So and it varies, right? And I can't say that that's the industry standard,
Right.
But you know, there's for fire aid, they have a variety of products. There's an Enforcer 10, which gives you about
200 gallons of finished
of foam. Right? There's an Enforcer 30, which gives you about 400 gallons of foam. These
Wow.
all can fit in the back of a side-by-side.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea it was
Yep.
that compact.
Yeah. And then there's a backpack unit that
Gives you 30
that's out
gallons.
there that gives you 30 gallons of foam.
Wow.
We do have some chat. Harris says annual inspections, 6-year service and 12-year hydro test.
Yep.
New suit, underwear, socks every year. Was an old suit was a backup. Fire extinguisher good for 6 years. And well, there's Esterly, which I can't comment on.
Oh no.
Yeah, so people are tuned in. They said a 20 pounder is required in a trailer in New Jersey, they believe.
Not through the state.
Okay.
The state does not require you to have a 20 pounder now. Maybe DOT does, right? So the Department of Transportation, right,
Yeah.
for the highway stuff, they
Yeah.
may require it, but we in New Jersey do not have a rule what you have to have in your trailer.
And someone commented, this was such an interesting night, amazing how this has gotten better over the last 40 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I guess we're going to wrap it up
Yeah,
while we're
let's wrap it
outside
up.
here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on with us.
Appreciate you. Yep.
Your knowledge and wisdom has been mind-boggling to me tonight. It's and from the bottom of my heart, and I know from Barry too, I can speak for him because we're like brothers. We appreciate everything you guys do for the racing community, and we appreciate you guys keeping everybody safe. And can't thank you enough for coming out here and showing us what you guys have, and we just love having you on.
You guys want to plug your businesses
Yes,
again?
please do.
Yeah,
I'm
Please
Ray Henry
do.
with ESI Equipment. We're a rescue resource, but we're also a racetrack safety service provider. We're local in
I didn't know
Pennsylvania,
existed.
Montgomeryville.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed either.
So any additional information, you can Google us, you'll find it, and there's multiple divisions down there.
Thank you so
good.
much.
Thank you so much.
And Warren,
No, and again, as a chief starter at Selinsgrove Speedway, Bloomsburg Speedway, traveling with the USAC National Series when they come east into auto racing, safety is very important, right? And I have been at racetracks when bad things have happened. I have assisted in pulling drivers out of cars when bad things have happened. Nobody ever wants to see it, and over the years, I think somebody made a comment, it's improved. Absolutely, because we want it to improve.
Yes.
We as the safety professionals have to stay up with that.
Yes.
Because race cars are getting faster, right? Bad things are happening.
They're hitting harder.
Right. And so we need to make sure that we're up,
Yeah.
up to the standards and up to the test, that when something bad happens, we can get it done.
Well, I'm going to put it to you this way, gentlemen. We appreciate what you and all the ladies are doing out there for safety, but let's just hope we never ever have to use you.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's going to be a different world because, you have ICE vehicles, which are internal combustion engines, and if we go to the world of battery, our game's going to have to change in the emergency
That's
services
a very
on the
good
track.
point. Absolutely.
And what's going to happen with the track. So if
Very
you,
good point.
if you can't catch up to today, what are you going to do when we're moving,
Yeah.
full speed ahead into
Very
another
good point.
domain of
Absolutely.
vehicles?
Right. Absolutely.
makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Man, I wouldn't mind doing another safety show like this
I
again.
said to Warren, we need to do a part 2 of this.
Yeah, this
honestly,
definitely
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
part 2. There's because I
Love
still have
to.
more questions.
I do too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so-
we could potentially there's drivers that probably have some old bent chassis that they're not going to
Yeah.
use. We might be able to get a chassis here. We might be able to do a show and tell with the extrication equipment that's out
The
there.
stuff Ray has in his truck is off the charts.
Yeah.
It's off the-
Absolutely. I mean, so-
300,000 psi.
Nice.
Butters.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, that'll get through some stuff.
I'm gonna cut your leg.
So yeah,
off.
so we can show that, right?
Yeah, that would
And then
be
we can
awesome.
talk about the incident action plan, right? So
Yes.
NFPA 610 is the standard for motorsports, right? That the National Fire Protection Association has in regards to that. So that's where I write all of our incident action plans, for indoor auto racing series.
Okay.
And it's a very in-depth plan. I'm writing one now for Selinsgrove Speedway, and because of the world we live in, you have to add in active shooter. You have to talk about the weather,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We don't have to do it so much for indoor because we're inside, but when you're
Right.
outside here, the storms that pop up, you got to worry about lightning. You got to worry the tornado warnings we had last weekend.
Correct.
Right? You got to worry about those things.
Port Royal Eastern Storm, we had an active shooter scenario.
Yes, we did.
Correct. Absolutely.
We did.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I mean,
yeah.
sadly, we were kind of exposed to all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
PSP situation there. That was,
sadly,
very-
a
very
trooper,
unnerving.
wound up losing his life
Yeah.
over that. But literally, that was 15.
It was minutes from the track.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
say 15 minutes in a racetrack. And it ended, a very short distance away from the racetrack. So, those are the things that you have to be prepared for. You have to plan for, and you have to practice the plan, right? Because that's how
Exactly.
you're going to be successful. And that's how you're going to know, does the plan work? By practicing it. Because then you might say, well, you know what, I need to modify this. And, do it that, stuff
I
like
like
that.
that. Plan to practice and practice to plan.
We
Absolutely.
should live by those words.
We should.
No,
We should.
you.
No, you
Absolutely.
should. Well, listen, from all of us here at Lowdown Entertainment, I have to give a shout out to my man over here. He's the guy right here.
Here's the
Keeping
boss.
this show rolling right here. I had a
Ethan's in
brief
the
interview
house.
with this young man earlier tonight. He's this is the future right here. So
That's right.
we appreciate him coming out.
And his pop's a heck
We
of a
appreciate-
fireman as well.
We appreciate Dad coming out here too. Dad, we appreciate your service as well for being a firefighter.
And thanks
So,
for hooking us up with Ray. Appreciate
no
that.
problem at all.
This is great stuff. So from all of us here at Lowdown Entertainment, we want to thank everybody for being here. We want to say good night, God bless, and we'll see you soon.
See you at the racetrack.